Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business to seven figures or above. I have an amazing guest here with me today, somebody who is no stranger to my circles, no stranger to our channels, no stranger to really anything that we're doing, someone we've been able to collaborate with and have a great friendly relationship with for a long time now. My friend, and I don't even know how to even give a proper intro. Miss Joanna Wyckoff, who is the founder of Top Flight Insurance Solutions, the admin of Insurance Ladies, admin of Medicare Mentors, multiple other Facebook groups. I'm sure that I'm not going to remember them all. And Social Security expert, agency builder, mentor, everything else in between. Joanna Wyckoff. First off, Miss Joanna, how are you today?
Thank you for having me, Christian. It's always a pleasure to be here. You're right. We've collaborated. I want to say we're going on 5 years strong. I think I met you in like 2019,
Yep.
and I was on your podcast back then. I think that was one of my very first podcasts when I was very shy on camera. So thanks for having me today. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Yes, I remember that podcast, and you were very nervous. I do remember that, as a lot of people are when they first do a video interview of any kind, and you've come a super long way with your presence on video and just everything like that. Not that you didn't have it back then. I just think you didn't realize you had it back then, and now you
Yeah,
realize you have it.
it's become second nature now that I'm used to the camera being on. When you're not used to the camera recording and you think prematurely of what am I going to say and how am I going to say this, and just don't think about it is my best advice to anybody who wants to do what we do, is
Yeah.
don't sit there and overanalyze stuff, because the overanalyzing doesn't do any good.
It's true. It's true. Like, the more you try to script something, the more it's going to sound robotic, and the more the chance I think there is of screwing it up, honestly.
Mm,
Um, so let's kind of go to the beginning of this story, right? So I think a majority of people that are going to watch this probably know your intro story about how you got into the business, how you got into insurance, the Social Security origin story, the military, everything like that. But take us back to the beginning for anybody that might not be familiar with Joanna Wyckoff. How did you get into insurance? What does the origin story look like?
I'll tell you, nobody really knows this part. Circa 2007, I was 24 years old. I had just gotten injured in the Air Force. I was an F-16 avionics journeyman. Not the quite the best job for a 5'5" girl. And I got injured, and the Air Force came back and said, "Hey, your orders are being pulled. You're no longer going to Florida. You are now being temporarily medically retired from the Air Force. You have 10 days to find a new home. Bye."
Good
And I
Lord.
was, yeah, I was stationed in Mountain Home, Idaho at the time with a spouse that had no legal status in the United States. He was foreign, illegal. I didn't bring him here illegally. He was already here, and we were trying to figure out what our next step was, because I'm from upstate New York, and I couldn't go back home because of my severe chest injury. I couldn't tolerate the cold weather or the snow. Anyways, he had said, "Hey, let's go to Atlanta. I have family in Atlanta. My dad could probably get you a job at the airport there." I said, "Let's go to Atlanta." So I was here in Atlanta job searching, going to the George World Congress Center job fair, and it was massive. And had my resume in hand. I was wearing a nice suit and everything. And I walked by this table, and it said Primerica. No joke. And I stood there, and they were like, "Oh, you would be a good fit. You can come in and do a background check with us. We're going to interview you. You would be a good fit." So I thought I scheduled a legitimate interview with a legitimate company that was looking for like office admin, right? They didn't say you're going to be in insurance sales or anything. It was, we're looking for good people. So I go to the interview, and this retired colonel, he actually worked his military experience with me, playing on the fact that I was 2 weeks out of the Air Force, and I was broke, to be honest with you. When the Air Force told me I had, 10 days to leave, we lived paycheck to paycheck. I was a little E4, a senior airman, And my rent took most of my paycheck. And I had no money saved. You don't plan for these things. I should have planned for it, I didn't. And so I was living off of a loan from USAA. USAA had given me a $5,000 loan, and my retirement check had not kicked in yet. Like it pays a month behind, just like Social Security.
Yeah.
And so I had basically $250, and they said, okay, your background check is going to be $250. And I was like, okay, I guess it's good if I can spend this money and get a job, right? And I was looking for an office job I could do where I didn't have to stand and lift heavy jet equipment, right? And so they didn't tell me the steps. They didn't tell me what I was actually going to be doing. I didn't ask a whole lot of questions
Mm-hmm.
because of my military background. You just do what someone tells you to do, right?
Right.
Very obedient, don't question, right? So I back then, 2007, my insurance class was live 40 hours, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. And it was 30 minutes away. So I would drive and sit there all day. And I finished the class, and I heard people in the class talking about the company, Primerica. I don't know about this. And I Googled it. Now, back then, 2007, there was a whole lot of information on Google. There was no Facebook groups in 2007 to
Mm-hmm.
talk to. There wasn't any podcasts. And he had brought me to the home office here in Duluth, Georgia. And it was very unsettling. I went to a conference and I had to buy my brochures, and I had to buy, yeah, it was really weird. I had to buy the brochures to sell the product. And I
Wow.
was just like, I said, okay, so how do I get started? And I didn't know the term upline or anything. I was like, how do I make money? How do I get started? Because I spent my last $250. I need to make money. When do I start? When do I start this job? And he said, well, you have to make a list of people, and we call through that list. I said, I don't know anybody here in Georgia. I just know my ex-husband, well, it was now my ex-husband. I just know my ex-husband and his family, and they have insurance through their jobs. And he's like, okay, well, talk to them. And they're not gonna. And that was it. I didn't have a list, so they didn't care. They didn't want to. I never got any help, never got another phone call. That was it. And so I ended up struggling. I was trying to find a job. I needed to provide for myself and my family. And I just went to I was doing Craigslist jobs. I was cleaning people's houses. I was applying for jobs 15 hours a day. And I didn't know, Christian, that $250 that I had actually paid went towards a temporary license in the great state of Georgia. I didn't
Mm.
know I signed up for a temporary license. Ask me why.
Why?
They mailed it to their damn office.
Good
My
Lord.
license that I paid for got mailed to their office, their home office. I found that very deceptive. So I didn't know until I came back
Yeah.
into the insurance industry in 2016 that Joanna Wyckoff actually held and possessed a temporary license in 2007. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so how I was re-recruited in 2016, I had finished my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. I worked every day at Social Security, and I went to school at night, and I finished these degrees, and I ended up taking out $35,000 in student loans for my master's to finish it. And I originally thought that master's was going to get me a promotion at Social Security because I was already a GS 11, and the next level above me was a supervisor and then the regional office. And I thought for sure this would get me a project management job at the regional office, and it didn't. In the government, kind of only get promoted by who you know,
Mhm. Right.
and
Right.
it's really nepotism, right? And so this guy, and he was wearing a military uniform and on Facebook, and he slid into my DMs, and I was like, "Do I know you?" Because I was already adminning the world's largest veteran Facebook group, Veteran to Veteran Info. That's how I got into Facebook. Um, I was a Social Security subject matter expert for them, and I still am to this day. And I said, "Can I help you? Do I know you?" And he's like, "Well, we're looking for people to work with us part-time. Would you be interested in making some money on Saturdays?" And I said, "My sister, I had a disabled sister that lived with me. I said, that sounds perfect for my sister. I'm trying to get her going to do something around her disability." she ended up going back to New York, and he said, well, what about you? Couldn't you use some money to pay off Sally Mae? I was like, you know what? I could, because Social Security didn't allow us to get any overtime in my office. So how am I supposed to pay off a new loan if I don't have any extra income to pay it off, right? And so I was pitched this MLM-ish type company. I won't name them, but I call them my practice company, where it was more of recruit before you can even know what insurance is. They wanted you to recruit before you were even licensed, right? And I stayed there 2 years too long. But while I was there, somebody said to me, hey, Joanna, you work at Social Security. You should sell Medicare because you already know the federal side of Medicare. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I sell for this company. I set up a couple tables on the weekend, like at health fairs, and I make about 4 sales on an afternoon. I said, 4 sales, sign me up. And she did. I put my contracts with her upline. And Christian, we don't know what we don't know.
Yep. So true.
Life insurance agents on that side, you really just need a contract and you can write the bit. There's not a whole lot to life insurance. You're going to die. Right?
Yep.
Right?
Pretty much.
You're going to die. There's not a whole lot of difference. But with Medicare, there's so much intricacies with how it works and the entitlement. And I mean, just in enrollment periods, there's so many difference, right?
Yep.
And so they provided no training. They didn't have any training. And that got me to looking on Facebook, where I was trying to make friends with people like you to say, how do I do this? And what do I do? Right. And that's how the Facebook groups really started. I created, well, Joe, my former mentor, Joe Tritola, had created what is now Medicare Mentors. It was senior market sales or something back then. It was some weird name, senior market insurance or something back then. December 2017, he had created it. And I came along into his life, and I had already been a Facebook admin of the veteran group that was probably over 500,000 by then. And we started sharing information, talking to other people, what med sub takes this condition, just sharing information, because back then there was not a whole lot of collaboration in the industry. And it was really siloed. Like a lot of agents only knew what their upline FMO told them, right? There wasn't a whole lot of collaboration. And I think now in 2024, a lot of people who are coming into the industry don't realize what we went through, right? Back in our days of walking uphill both ways, right? So now we share information. But that was a story. I was originally recruited by Primerica. And so when I was pitched by this other company,
I never knew that.
So here's the thing, Christian. Had someone been transparent and honest with me about Primerica in 2007, I probably would have had a very different story to share. I probably would have had a lot of different success. Now, going to Social Security and working at Social Security is how I am successful today, because that's been my claim to fame, if you will, right? I don't have the sales background. I don't think that if it was regular sales, I would have survived. But my subject matter expertise has helped me a lot, right?
Yeah.
But I really wish someone was honest and transparent and told me the entire story, not just bits and pieces of what they wanted me to know. And that's why I'm passionate about what we do now. You and I, we show the good and the bad and the ugly to agents so they know everything and they can make an informed decision, right?
This video is brought to you by the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit. Guys, have you ever wanted to get around other professionals and the best of the best in the Medicare space if you're a Medicare agent? There's something to be said about networking and learning what other people are doing around the country, and they might just have some ideas that you may never have thought of before. It's also something to be said about learning from the best of the best. The most successful people in the insurance space collaborate, talk with others, and they have a mentality that we all are in this together and we share ideas and grow together. The 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit is the premier event for Medicare agents. It is highly affordable. It has a great reputation of being some of the best content you're going to find at any event. There's so many events out there that are nothing but pitch fests, or half of the speakers are employees for the agency that host the event, and there's not really any real agency builders, or very few that actually take the stage and speak. At the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit, you get nothing but the best of the best talent from all over the industry. It's not based on hierarchy. It's not based on anything like that. We all are coming together as Medicare agents to grow and learn and get better. You can get information on who the speakers are for this year's event and ticket prices down in the link of this description. We would love to see you at the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit. Yep, 100%, 100%. It's interesting, like there are a lot of people that I know in the space that got started or maybe not even got started, but their introduction to the industry was Primerica or something like Primerica. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but my father, his first insurance introduction, and actually his first insurance experience, was with Primerica. Before it was Primerica, it was called A.O. Williams back then. Before I was even born. That was like his introduction to insurance. And so, I think what they do that's good, if I have to be objective about it, right, is that I think they bring a lot, they introduce a lot of people to the industry. Yeah. Even though there's probably a very few amount of people that find success in that model, but they introduce people to the industry and get people in. But it's fascinating how many people in our space that are crushing it in so many different avenues started with a Primerica, or one of, if it's not Primerica, it's one of these MLM type,
right? The recruit first model.
Yeah.
Imagine this though. Imagine if somebody was transparent on all aspects. We wouldn't have such a high failure rate in the beginning though. Yep. Because I think Agreed. A lot of recruiters, a lot of people who recruit first show the glitz and the glamour, but they don't show the work that it took to get there, right?
100%.
And I think you and I share the same beliefs that it's not a one product fits all model, right? I have a young sister who could never qualify for a term product. And that's actually, so my sister Abby has been she's been terminal. Abby got injured when she was 22. She was in college taking her midterms, and all of a sudden she came down with a neurological condition where she just started kind of like having a seizure disorder. And she was hospitalized for weeks on end. They still don't really know what caused it. But then she had heart failure multiple times. And Abby has been on her deathbed multiple times. And she just celebrated her 35th birthday last year. And Abby is a licensed agent. So I did end up getting Abby licensed with my, back when I came to 2016, I had to recruit some agents to get my promotions. So I pitched Abby, and I thought Abby could actually find some success in here. And she liked talking to other people, so she was interested in it. What got us searching for more is they did not have a solution for Abby's own personal life insurance. Our upline told us to write her an accidental only policy from Mutual Omaha or Foresters. And I said, Abby's probably not going to die from an accident. Abby's probably going to die from her actual medical condition. And then what? And then Abby ended up having my very first niece. And, if something happens to Abby, she has to, something has to provide for the baby, right?
Yep.
I ended up seeking for more solutions. In the Facebook groups, I was talking to all these agents, and I was picking people's brains saying, what do you know that would cover a very unhealthy 30-something-year-old, And somebody told me about this solution. The company was Senior Life at the time, and they still have it, I believe, where they had an under 40 guaranteed issue life insurance product. And so I went and got a contract with them. And the company I was currently with did not appreciate that. They told me I was independent, but are you really independent, right?
Right.
And but that's where I started searching, because if I can't protect my own house first, how dare I try to protect anybody else's, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's what really got us searching. So when folks when folks are at that crossroads where they are contracted with a company, but they themselves can't even get approved, there has to be different solutions, and every product has a place in this market, right? I think even every product has a place and a reason for why it was created. So I think that, not being biased is really healthy in that situation. But that's how I really got started is, Primerica and then my practice company doing life insurance. And guess what? I sucked at selling life insurance. I sucked at calling leads. I would buy these $35 leads from them and try to call them Thursday nights for Saturday. And they wouldn't even let me buy leads here in Atlanta where I live. I had to buy leads in like Gadsden, Alabama, which is a
Mm.
couple-hour drive. Yeah, and try to go see them on Saturdays. But guess what? Who answers their phone on Thursday and Friday nights? It was really hard. And I would get maybe two people who would say, okay, you can come. Running it 2 hours away for one appointment, two appointments is not a successful business model. And
No.
that's why when that girl said you should do Medicare, I said I could do that in my own backyard. And Christian, that company wasn't very transparent either. I didn't know I could buy leads outside of them. And we both have a mutual friend, Glenn Shelton, who sells leads,
Yep.
right? And you actually own a part of his company now. Yeah, it's so crazy. But no, many agents are not taught that there's solutions outside of their own upline entity. You can do mail drops, you can buy preset appointments. And honestly, had someone said, "Hey, Joanna, you can buy preset appointments and just show up on Saturday," I would have been pretty successful, I think. Because my main problem was booking the appointment,
Hmm.
right? I just didn't
Make
have the capacity. But now I actually buy preset appointments for my new agents.
and that's good. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of agents, it's a pretty normal problem. I think there's a lot of agents that struggle with that initial call
Hmm.
and that initial introduction to get someone to allow them to get in the door. So I
Hmm.
think I think preset appointments are certainly a really good solution to that. So walk me through a little bit of how did Joanna become such a sensation on social media, for lack of a better word, right? Like, so I remember Joe bringing you in and making you an admin of the group that he started, like you said, and it really became, your group. You were doing all the work in the group, you were doing all the posting, like everybody was learning from you. Not to say that, he didn't bring any value to it because he did, but
Yes,
you,
you
you
did.
were you were much more the face of the group. You were there every day and he was there from time to time. But how did you grow into, in your mind, this online sensation with agents?
So it was really by accident. um, in the Facebook groups, I was always trying to reciprocate, right? If I'm asking you for life insurance advice or sales advice, I didn't have any sales advice to offer because I was really the rookie in the room. But one thing I thought I could bring to the table was my knowledge from the government side. I knew how Social Security worked. I worked in the local field office here doing Social Security for 9.5 years. I'm a disabled veteran. I know the veteran side inside and out. I admin that group. And so when people had questions, I was simply answering their questions.
Hmm.
And there was misconceptions that, I mean, it drove me nuts when people would misuse the terms SSI and SSDI, things like that. A lot of people were not taught a lot of things. And I was originally under a company that didn't do any teachings. So I always thought, we had this thing back then called the rookie report, where anytime I learned something, I would try to go reteach it because that's the military model. In the Air Force, if you learn something today, you were teaching it to the next guy tomorrow, the person who came right behind you, because people are graduating boot camp and at school every day, right?
Right.
And so they said, okay, I taught you this today, you're going to teach it tomorrow, and so on and so on. That's the Air Force model. And so I was always trying to reciprocate by someone taught me, so I'm going to teach it forward, right? And you know, correcting misconstrued information. Like a lot of people misconstrued how IRMA worked and extra help for Part D. And even Part A and B entitlements was really misunderstood, and back then we had this wonky Part B enrollment chart before they changed the law last year. It was, if you applied now, this is when it starts. You remember that, right?
I do.
And
Yep.
so many, even Social Security reps got it wrong, right? And so I was just reteaching what I knew. And soon, people started asking me to speak at conferences. I was speaking at NAHU, which is now NABIB. And I was shocked because I'm very introverted. You're more likely to get me to write a book for you than to be on camera. Um, but that's how it really came about, is just my willingness to share my knowledge, and people wanted to learn, and I was just shocked. I was like, this is really boring stuff. I'm surprised you guys are still awake. um, and that's really how the Facebook group grew up. And we became educational first. I never wanted to make it about pitching or recruiting. Until this past January, I never sold anything in my group. My group has been in place since 2017. So what, 7 years now?
Hmm.
And I never sold anything to my audience because I didn't want that to be the purpose of the group. Many groups on Facebook, their only purpose or main purpose is to generate sales. And that's fine if that's what people know it's for. But I wanted to be a natural. I wanted it to be genuine. Who wants to talk to someone when they know that they're only talking to them to be pitched? Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Like,
absolutely.
we've all been in that seat where someone only calls you to pitch you, or someone only talks to you because they think that you're going to work with them, right? But I really wanted to have some reciprocation in the group where I'm bringing value to you with my knowledge, and then you guys are bringing your sales experience, right? And everybody collectively, we all have different experiences. You're going to talk to people about one thing, and your dad probably talks to people in different backgrounds, right?
Hmm.
So collectively, we're exchanging information and ideas, and it's really blown up. The Facebook group boom over the last couple of years has really been booming. And we're seeing a lot of growth. And now things that were kept secret back in our earlier days are now common knowledge. Like, how to get a release was top secret back in 2018 when I was trying to move my Medicare contracts from the very first time, and nobody would tell me how to actually do it, even though it's not rocket science, you know, but it was not common knowledge. Most agents didn't know how to move. And now you and I both teach that very publicly, right?
Hmm. Yep.
So that, I mean, I think it's just the willingness to share the information and not keep it like hostage is my claim to fame. Teach first, and if you value what I taught you, maybe you want to work with me one day.
Yeah. I think it's a great philosophy, I think, for business that's very new age. It's very new age, like, and it's definitely been mine as well, and I think it's been really interesting for me because like I come from a little bit of a different perspective from a lot of agents, because when I started, there was the insurance forms, but I didn't even know about the insurance forms. Like I
Mhm.
just was so disconnected. Like the only agents I knew were like 60 to 70 years old.
Right.
Um and like we didn't really work with anybody. It was like, I worked with myself, Ken Howe, and my
Mm-hmm.
dad, and that was
Mm-hmm.
it. And Ken Howe and my dad were not really around very much,
Right.
like, and so I was very much working alone for the most
Mm-hmm.
part. And so a lot of my experiences happened completely by myself in the
Right.
darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first discovered the Facebook groups, I'd already been selling 5, 6 years
Mm-hmm.
already. And I remember it being like, what is this? I'm like, there's an online community of agents. Like, I'm like, what? And of course, your group was around, I don't know if I should say, I'm just going to say it. Medicare Monsters, which was Medicare Gurus, is around, and of course, a million life insurance groups. But
Yeah, but we were really the only two, and then you created your group.
yeah, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I feel like those three groups really just kind of pioneered, I think, this age of sharing and free flowing information and giving, give, then ask type of
Hmm.
mentality.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think agents have it good now, is what I would say.
You know, I feel like my grandparents when they said they walked uphill both ways in the snow, you know.
Right.
Now they can go onto any one of our Facebook groups and ask a question and get a response in probably less than 5 minutes. Whereas
Yep.
we were sitting here searching through Google and stuff, trying to figure out how to click on where to click and what, you know, and why is this not going through and who do I call for this? The technology has come second to none. I mean, the industry is really booming right now. We didn't have any of this technology when I started back in 2017. No quote and enroll systems, um, no Medicaid lookups, you know, that didn't exist back then, you know. I remember asking my broker manager in 2007, Veterans Day 2017. I had no idea how to do my job. I didn't know how to do a presentation. And I went to a broker manager's kit pickup and I sat there and cried to my broker manager, said, please just show me how to do a presentation, you know. But now you can find that on Google, not Google, on YouTube, you know. Now you, me, everybody's on YouTube teaching it. But back when we started, there was nobody doing it. Maybe one gentleman, his name is Chris Westfall. I think he was the first one to pioneer it, and then Eric Fiero, right? But there was no outside influence other than your upline FMO who was doing training, and they might not have had an online presence where they did training that posted online. Because I mean, I had a day job. I couldn't go to trainings with the carriers at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. I was at work, right? So how else you access it? And now, I mean, even I think COVID kind of pushed the industry into the 21st century because now things are recorded, they're posted online, it's easy to access, you know. So the newer agents definitely have it made because now they can learn by YouTube, they can learn around Facebook groups. They have more than just somebody giving them their version of the story. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I think it's very well said. And I agree. I think I was talking to somebody about this earlier this week, and I was reflecting back, like when I started, and probably when you started too, there really wasn't many, if any, Medicare Advantage e-apps. It was not compliant, right, for the longest time. And so if there's no e-apps, what do you have? You have paper apps. It was your only option, right? Like, so for many years, like the only apps that you could write, like for me, I got in 2013, 2014. And, you know, so basically from that time period up until when did Sunfire come out and Connecture and all these 18, 19?
2019, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's quite a few years, right? To completely rely on nothing but paper. And again, you hit it right on the head. There was no quoting engines. Like CSG was around, but it was like $120 a month for the whole country. And like, at least for me, when I was first starting, I was like, oh, $120 a month. I remember I bought into Chris Westfall's website specifically just for that. I could pay $25 a month and use Chris Westfall CSG. That was the only reason I got into the website. Um, and, you know, but I remember going through paper Medicare supplement underwriting guides and all of these different things. And yeah, again, you hit it right in the head from the standpoint that where if you did have a question, I mean, for me, I could ask my dad, but my
Yeah.
dad had been out of the field for 15 years when I
Mhm.
started. So there was a ton of specific questions I was running into that he just didn't know.
Mm.
So I'm calling the producer help desk. I'm calling the carriers. I'm asking my broker managers. Like I'm looking for every resource I can possibly find. And it is such a resource and a value today to these agents that they can literally just open their phone, type out the question, wait 2 or 3 minutes, check back. They're going to probably have an answer. It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's a crazy time.
it's a crazy time. And then now we have conferences like your conference coming up, where that didn't exist just five
Yeah.
years ago. There was no conference that was not FMO specific when I started, you know. Back when I started, I had to pay to go my own FMO conference. you know, and the FMOs were making the agents the consumers, which is not my favorite business model, you know. So we really appreciate, I think agents should really appreciate what they have available now because, you know, Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit and everything didn't exist just 4 years ago, you know.
Yep. Agreed. So I think that transitions into a great question that I have for you. 2024 is very different, right, than 2014 or 2017 or 18 even in terms of the landscape of the business, right? There's more tools available, compliance is different, there's probably more competition. What are the keys, do you think, to an agent coming in 2024 to be successful? Because one thing I keep hearing, and I'm sure you're hearing it too, is we're moving into a space where if someone's new and they are coming in and maybe they don't have any money to spend on their business, they're probably going to have to start as LOA. Like it's almost, I'm hearing that from a lot of people lately. I don't know if you have as well, that it's becoming harder and harder and harder and harder to start from scratch as an independent. What do you think is the keys to making it as an independent today if you're brand new versus when we started?
So when I get a new agent, and I normally don't take new agents direct because I'm flying around the country right now. Normally, try to partner a new agent with a GA or an MGA local to them so they can shadow them and get all the love and handholding. If an agent doesn't have any money, I try to ask them to go make some money in a different avenue. And you can have a yard sale, you can have a bake sale, you can Uber, you can sell some plasma. There's other ways to generate money to buy some preset leads or some leads, or work with value-based carriers to get their marketing co-ops. Like I have Village MD, for example, love them to pieces. They invite me where they are going. So Village MD is doing a conference at a senior center or a community place, they usually ask me or one of my agents to accompany them. That gets me in front of their audience, right? And I think agents need to think outside the normal box. I have started to teach agents, I'm teaching this next week too, how to have a solutions-based workshop. I think the Medicare 101s are overdone, right? Especially for somebody who's already has Medicare. Your 68-year-old mom doesn't need another Medicare 101. They probably need a solution to their problem. What is their problem? It could be prescriptions, right? It could be that they have IRMA. It could be something else, right? But I like to do solution-based seminars and have a unique perspective on that. And you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a pharmacist to do a prescription assistance. Many of us know how to do extra help for Part D. I would start there, right? Becoming a pro at extra help for Part D, helping people apply and qualify, helping people apply for Medicare Savings Program. Many people qualify for it. They don't know how to fill out that paper application to qualify for it. My 70-year-old mother is very sweet, but forms scare her. Think about how taxes scare us. The 1040 tax form looks like Chinese to most people. And that's how most people feel about any government type of application. Christian, our main job, you and me, our main job is professional application filler outers.
That is very true. That is very true.
We get paid very nicely to fill out applications on behalf of people, right?
Yep, that's true.
Expound that and help people qualify for government programs, right? Help them find the solution to their expensive medication, the Prolias, the Skyrizis, there's manufacturer programs out there. One of our friends, Norma Johnson, has a university for that. And she's actually works with me. But, I learned that there's manufacturer assistance programs out there. Just sharing that knowledge, I can go into any senior center now. Instead of the Medicare 101s that every other agent wants to pitch, I'm saying, hey, I'm coming in with a solution. And they want those people want my solution, right? How to fill a room. I just think a little bit differently outside the box. Partner with somebody who has your audience, who has the perfect demographic for the Medicare agent. Financial advisors. Most financial advisors don't do Medicare. Most
Mhm.
of them don't, but they already have a book of business that trusts them. And most of them would be happy if you help their people do their IRMA life change events, for example. They probably have IRMA, right? Most people, the clientele with financial advisors is usually a higher income clientele who usually needs some help with their IRMAs. You know, think about PNC agencies. PNC agencies usually have books of businesses. I had one of my friends run how many turning 65 and overs they had. They had over 1,000 people, 64 and
Oh,
up.
oh.
That your audience, I actually, they had health licensing. You know what I pitched them? I said, instead of sending those people to me, how about I teach you how to write it, you know?
Mhm. Yep.
Because they already know unlike you, you know. But think about places that already have your client. Home healthcare agencies are one of my favorite. You know, I have a doctor, primary care doctor, who does concierge home visits. Every time he's in a home and he's looking at their insurance card, he's sending it to me and saying, "Hey, Joanna, I'm in a home and this lady tells me that she has this, but she's homebound. How can I get her depends paid for? How can I get this paid for?" You know, and we're just finding a solution. So I found success in partnering with other referral partners because guess what? They want my clients. They want to service in their business, right? Especially the doctors and new business owners. So if you're helping someone who is usually within the first 5 years of their business, they're usually looking for new clients too, right? So I don't think agents need to be LOA. I'm not of the LOA fan. Now, if some people should probably be LOA, not independent. You know,
Mhm.
you have to evaluate your own skill set, right? You have to be honest with yourself. Do you need someone to tell you exactly what to do and when to do it? Or did you run your own business or do you want your own freedom? Me, I would probably be the worst LOA because I like to go on cruises. I like to travel when I want to travel. I don't want to have to clock in. I left Social Security to not tell another person why I needed sick time. You know, that was why I left. I was sick. I didn't want to tell my supervisor every time I wanted a permission to be sick, right? And so I think it depends on the person if they choose an LOA route or an independent route. There's nothing wrong with going LOA. You know, I support some call centers that have LOA agents and some local agencies that have people come to their office. It's what supports needed for the agent. And sometimes an agent should be LOA, maybe just for a year or two while they get their footing. And I wish that was offered to me back in 2016, 17, 18. If I had a local agency who said, "Hey, Joanna, you can come and shadow me and ride with me and see how I can do it." Like just like kind of how you listen to your dad, you know?
Yeah.
I was always really jealous of you having Ken Howe and your dad to show you the ropes because it's really hard to learn virtually. Okay, so I click here and then where do I click? And then, you know, it takes a lot longer learning curve doing it externally than it does internally, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I think that's very true. I think that's very true. I think, you know, I feel for agents that get started and everything is over a screen. Some people do fine with it, I guess. You know, it just
yeah,
depends on the person, but like, you know, it is hard. It is hard to learn with zero face-to-face interaction.
I think the hardest thing is conducting the actual appointment and not like me, I'm a visual learner. So the Air Force did not hire me as a jet mechanic knowing I already knew how to fix jets. I had no idea. It was monkey see, monkey do, right? I'm going to show you, you're going to repeat it. And that's how I learned how to fix jets, right? That was my learning style. So when I asked my previous upline for a ride along and they said no, and they were local to me, I was like, "Hey, can I take a day off of Social Security and ride with you?" They were only an hour and a half. They said no. I was like, why would you not want me to learn this process? Because, you know, especially back then when we had to do home visits and there's ways to walk in people's house, they teach how to knock on the door, you know, and it was just weird. Like you're trying to not overanalyze it, but I overanalyzed everything. I was like, should I wear shoes? What kind of shoes should I wear? You know, should I wear loafers? Do I wear socks? um, But yeah, so I know a lot of people are worried about how the FMO model is going. I have a couple friends that were at a recent conference called CapCon, and they were discussing the legislation on, you know, is the overrides in the FMO model going to be torn apart this year? And hopefully we know in a couple weeks. They said around Easter we should know. I don't think they're coming for you or my job. I don't think they want it, right? Because I don't think that the carriers alone can support the agents by themselves. Because I think that there's still not enough help, right? There's still not enough. And I think that our business model, the way it's built, street level, GA, MGA, FMO, I think that's going to stay intact. So I don't think that anybody needs to be LOA for that reason. Now, if they find more value in being LOA to someone, then it works out for them, right? I would like to always encourage people to just know your contract because guess what? I've seen a lot of people who contract as LOA, but they didn't know what the alternative was, right? They didn't know that what they were giving up in order to be LOA or what they were gaining. Uh, so LOA, are they buying your leads? Are they paying for your license? Are they, what are you getting in exchange for sending over your rights to that future commission?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think I totally agree. I think LOA could there's such a spectrum with LOA, and
yeah.
it can go from like it can be a great thing for the right person. It can be a horrible thing where they're just raked over the coals. And the fact of the matter is I think it has everything to do with the fact that the agent is giving up control. So if you're giving up control to somebody who's going to be trustworthy and honor what they promise you,
Mhm.
then it's great. Then it's fine. Then you get everything you're promised. You can not have you don't have as nearly as much risk, if any risk. Like you just show up and sell. Um, on the flip side, you could do everything you're supposed to do. You could over deliver, and they're just like, "Thank you very much, Mr. or Mrs. Agent." Like, you know, there's the door. And that's always a possibility. So yeah, I
At the
think that's very true.
at the end of every December, we see it. All the call centers usually have some layoffs,
Hmm.
and we see an influx of agents who worked their butts off in AEP, and maybe they weren't even given their last check, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and then they were like, now what? I thought I was gonna be here. I worked hard for this company and I have nothing to show it for other than, the paycheck I earned, but there's no renewals there. So in that model, they're kind of stuck in like a hamster wheel, where they're constantly needing a paycheck to make it, but they can't go out on their own. So, I mean, I've even offered people, as I said, if you want an LOA, maybe you start them off as LOA for the first year, 2 years until they found their footing or a couple hundred apps, and then you make a path to independent if they want, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but at least be transparent because one thing that hurts this industry I think is when people don't disclose the facts, all the facts, and then you find out that someone did withheld truths from you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not normal for me to pay for all my licensing and only get paid $20 per app. No, that's not normal. If you're,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
like I think that's where we see the hurt from in the Facebook groups is people who find out that what they were doing was not industry standard or they were being forced to pitch one thing over another and they didn't feel ethical about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I want to be respectful of your time. I have one more
sure.
question I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
You recently rolled out a university, which
Mm,
which was long overdue, by the way, is something that the people have been wanting for some time. And
yes.
I was very glad for one to see that you were able to kind of have it come out and offer it to folks. Talk about this university. What can people learn? What can people expect? And where can they learn more about it if they wanted to
Sure.
learn more from Joanna?
Yeah, so the university I recently forced one of my friends to become a partner of sorts. It's hard wearing so many hats. And that's why, you and I have talked about me doing my own trainings for years. People have asked me and begged me to do Social Security trainings in university. And I really just didn't have the capacity on top of personal production and mentoring and everything to just do it and sit, because it takes time. It takes a lot of time to sit down and record content to then launch it. And so this past Christmas, I was in Hawaii with my partner, Zach Paschke, and I said, Zach, we have the capacity to do it now. He relieved a lot of my time, right? I said, I now have he has the technical expertise. I didn't know how to build websites by myself. I have the knowledge up here, but I didn't know how to put it out there, right? I didn't know how to build landing pages, or I didn't know how to work my go high level, things like that, where Zach came along and he already knew how to do that. He brings that skill set to my table. And so I was like, I think with your skill set and my skill set combined, we can actually launch this dream of ours, right? So we did at the beginning of January. It's called Medicare Mentors Pro. The website is MedicareMentorsUniversity.com. No, I'm sorry, MedicareMentorsMedia.com. I got my own website wrong. And we've taught things like how to build an LLC before you even start the LLC part. Because one of the mistakes I made, Christian, when I was sitting there making Top Flight, I didn't do some research. And when I made Medicare Mentors, somebody went and trademarked my name before I did, So I divulged the mistakes I've made. I want people to not make the same mistakes and shorten their learning curve, right? I've taught veteran benefits. I've taught how to do Social Security workshop. I've taught how to do Social Security disability. We've taught how to do a landing page, a value-based care, so many different topics. I'm trying to do not just Social Security topics, but how to do marketing, Social Security, veterans, technology, different topics to help people with all streams of their business. And so every Monday, 10 o'clock Eastern time live, it's hosted and then it's recorded to go to the university. So there's 3 different packages. People can buy the lowest package and just show up for the live training, or they can buy the middle package and have live training plus a private Facebook group to get me and Zach to answer their questions specifically, or the university package where they get all of my previous content that I recorded over the past couple of years that my agents get, plus the new trainings that are recorded and launched. And so it's going really well. We have done tremendous, I wish I did it years ago. And if I could give anybody some insight, don't wait. That was my biggest takeaway is Chris Westfall told me 2 years ago, Joanna, start your consumer facing content. And I didn't start my YouTube and everything. Because you know what? I allowed my fear and I don't know when I'm going to find the time to do it. But had I just set aside 30 minutes a day to do it, I would have made more millions by now. I lost a lot of income by being stuck up here and procrastinating. So if anybody's listening to me, maybe you don't have a university launch, but at least launch your own YouTube consumer facing content of what you know. And you can copy regular content. Medicare is not proprietary, right? But people are eating content at a rapid rate, right? I'm watching TikTok for an hour a night, laying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? People are watching. And why not you, right? If Christian can make it, if I can make it, why not you? I'm not the prettiest girl. Christian bald, why not you, right? And so I wish I did it. So you made I had a university for my agents. I want to say in 2019, I made it for my agents because I was getting tired of teaching what Medicare savings program was every damn day. And I recorded it once, and you and I collaborated when you launched yours for the very first time. And I was like, I don't know why I didn't do what Christian did then. I just thought in my head that it wasn't the right time and I didn't think I had enough time. And back then I was like, I don't think anybody wants to hear from this Yankee in New York, you know? So yeah, so I wish I did it years ago. It's certainly long overdue, you're right. But here it is now. And I'm excited, you know. And I think that we both have different teaching styles, so it's not the same content that Christian and I, we have different teaching styles and we teach different topics, right?
Yes.
So if you're, you know, with Christian, you can still get mine. If you're with mine, you can get Christian's. We are friendly competitors, is what I like to call us in the space. You know, we sit at the same dining table. It's pretty lonely at the top, so we try to not make any enemies. But yeah, we've been friendly competitors for many years, and I appreciate that. Um, but yeah, if anybody's listening, go do your own. You don't have to have any fancy equipment. And that's another thing I
Yeah.
thought. I thought I had to have a fancy microphone set up like Christian, you know, and lighting equipment and how am I going to edit the videos? Because I am not, I always lied to myself, Christian. I said, I don't know how to do that. I am not the technology girl. You don't have to be. Just start, right? Just
Agreed.
start. Just start. Take your iPhone and just freaking record, right?
Yep. Do it selfie style. Do it selfie style. Like, because I told somebody recently, I was like, you know, if you go watch my first 100 YouTube videos, and they were probably on our consumer channel, not even this channel.
Mhm.
They're terrible. They're so bad. Like, they're so terrible. You know, like I don't even look like myself for one. Like I have hair and everything, and like they were
I
filmed
don't
with an
know.
iPhone, and they're you can't hear me. I'm like, hey everybody, how's it going? You know, like you can't hear me at all. Like they're just so bad. But they're stepping stones. You have to go through that. And as time goes on, you get better. You learn. You're like, you know,
Just like anything.
just like
Just like
anything.
anything, you know. Same thing with writing business and running appointments. You got to start.
Yep.
And after the first 10, it gets easier. Now, I've been doing live training twice a week now for 2 years, and it's like second hat now, you know? It's like I'll sit here and go, what should I teach on Friday? The agents asked a lot of questions about this. Let me go write a lesson plan for it, you know? And
Mhm.
now it's just like second nature. And same thing with consumer facing content. Just put something out there. It doesn't have to be earth shattering. You could just be explaining how to leave your group coverage, right? But people need help.
Yep. Yep. Amen. Well, guys, I encourage you to go check out Joanna's course. Joanna, if you send me a link when this is done, I'll throw it in the description of the video so people can go and check it out there. So we'll look for the link in the description of the video as well if you want to check out and learn more. Joanna, thank you for doing this. This was awesome
Yeah,
as always.
awesome. Thank you for having me.
Always. I mean, anytime, as you know. Guys, if you watched this far and got all the way to the end, first off, thank you for watching all the way to the end. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe if you like this type of content. That's the only way I'm going to know if you like this video. And we'll be back with another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast very soon. Thanks, everybody.